People tell me I don't do my thing till I see them in public and pop out in parking lots. Ain't a dog, but I walk up the block and I bite on your ass. You a bitch and you walk a lot.
Oh yeah.
Another
episode of the James Nolan podcast. New YouTube channel. Podcasts are all on Spotify still, but all the old podcasts are not on YouTube, unfortunately. Because I had to take all those down because my new YouTube channel, well, my old YouTube channel is now officially just the Mets Way. It's the Mets Way's YouTube channel. It's got its own YouTube channel because it's growing. It is growing. Twitter, the Mets Way Twitter is blowing up. You know, we got a TikTok now. We got the Instagram. And, you know, we got the YouTube now. The Mets Way, we're trying to get going with that. So I figured I got to make my own YouTube channel and start putting up my own content here. So here we are, and we're going to be focusing on what I talk about best, New York sports. And we're going to start it off with the good because baseball is over, and since baseball is over, I'm not starting off with baseball. The Yankees sucked. They got swept. The Mets suck. They didn't even get a chance to get swept because they couldn't make it out of the first round. But it's just a failed baseball season in New York. But football, you know, combined record right now, with the Giants being 5-1. I mean, with the Giants being 6-1 and the Jets being 5-2, New York football has a combined record of 11-3. So football in New York is booming, and you could thank, I would say, certain players. You could thank the Jets defense, and you could thank the Giants defense. The head coaches of both teams have been just nothing but spectacular. Rob Saleh. You know, he made the receipts comment a while ago. Well, he hasn't brought them out yet, the receipts officially, but when he does crank them out, which I think might be very soon, because listen, the Jets, you got to start putting respect on their name as one of the top defenses in the league. And then on the other hand, the Giants, you know, they're 6-1 now. You know, I've been saying it. This Giants team, with the soft schedule that they have, they can do some damage, and they've been doing that. You know, and the Jaguars, they're not a bad team. They were going into that game yesterday. The Jaguars had the third-ranked Russian defense. So the Giants, they had the game plan a little bit differently. Usually their game plan is obviously pound the football with one of the best running backs in the league right now, if not the best running back in the league in Saquon Barkley. But with the Jaguars, with the way that their Russian defense has been this year, you can't really pound the ball as much as you wanted to. So to start off the game, what do? Danny Jones is dropping back, and Danny Jones he's been really good this year. You got to hand it to him. As much as, you know, people hate on him for his struggles the last two seasons, but his rookie season was pretty good. You know, we saw the flashes. He's tall. He's got height over the pocket so we could see. And then, you know, he's got a good arm. He's mobile, more mobile than I would say most quarterbacks in the league. You know, outside of Lamar Jackson, you know, he's one of the best running quarterbacks in this league, and he's the first ever Giants quarterback to rush for 100 yards and throw for 200 yards in a single game, and that was yesterday in the Jaguars win. And he's not turning the ball over a lot. He just hasn't. I'm not sure when the last time he threw an interception. I could check right now, but Daniel Jones, the thing that has the big difference, I think, for him this year, the obvious difference for him this year, is the turnovers. The turnovers are down. You know, he hasn't recorded an interception since September 26th against the Dallas Cowboys. So now, you know, you're talking 4 weeks in a row without a turnover, and he only has 2 interceptions on the whole entire year. You know, granted, he only has 6 passing touchdowns, but you take into account his 3 rushing touchdowns. Three rushing touchdowns. That's 9 total touchdowns on the year to only 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles. So the guy is producing. He's getting you down the field, and he's giving the ball into Saquon's hand. And listen, this offensive line, it's still not there. Let's be real. This Giant, I mean, we see it every single game. Danny Jones is basically running for his life in the pocket. He got rushed 11 times against the Jaguars yesterday. He got rushed 6 times against Baltimore, 10 times against Green Bay, 6 times against Chicago, 9 times against Dallas, 10 times against Carolina, and 6 times in week 1 against Tennessee. So Daniel Jones is facing pressure. So I know he's not moving the ball down the field and putting the ball in the end zone as much as people want, But at the end of the day, this guy is managing the game, and that's what good quarterbacks do. Jimmy Garoppolo has made a living on being a game manager, a living. He's been doing multiple NFC championships. He's won NFC championships, and he's been to the Super Bowl. And listen, I think Danny Dimes is a perfect comparison to Jimmy G because he's doing exactly what Jimmy G does best, and that's manage the football game. And he's more talented than Jimmy G too. He's got a better arm. He doesn't have the same zip on the football that Jimmy G does because Jimmy G, he doesn't have a cannon, Jimmy G, but he can put some zip on the ball. He can get it to you quick, and he can hit it in any receiver's chest. But Danny Dimes, he's got a stronger arm. He's not as accurate, obviously, but he's still accurate. And guess what? He's 10 times more mobile than Jimmy G, so he can get out of the pocket. He can avoid these sacks. And, let's take a look. If you put Tom Brady on the Giants, Tom Brady's not avoiding the sacks that Danny Jones is avoiding right now this season. Same thing. You put and I know Tom Brady he's my first comparison, obviously, because he's the GOAT, one. And you see this year he's struggling with an offensive line. Imagine you gave him the Giants offensive line. I mean, I'm like the Giants need Danny Jones. They do. And there's no other better option this offseason other than Lamar Jackson. But is he going to be available? Are the Ravens really going to want to give him up? Probably not. So the best quarterback available this offseason is Danny Jones. So the extension for Danny Jones, it might come. It really might. He's earned it. Right now he's earning it because he's avoiding sacks with a terrible offensive line, and they're 6-1. He's not turning the ball over. He's not making bad decisions. Like, since he got ripped into on the sideline, since Brian Daboll, we have seen Danny Jones go from a kid to an NFL quarterback, a legit one, a franchise starting caliber quarterback. That's what Danny Jones is now. He's done in the developmental stages. We know what Danny Jones is. He's a game manager. And he's a mobile game manager, which opens up a lot of windows. Because imagine when you improve it. Imagine you put Danny Jones with a better offensive line. Because he's not turning the ball over with a terrible offensive line. And we see the Jets be the complete opposite. They're trying to make Zach Wilson not drop back. They're making him drop back as little as possible because they know their offensive line is in shambles right now. And they're pounding the football, and the Giants still pound the football. But Danny Jones, he can do more than Zach Wilson because he's developed. He can make the big throws. He can lead. I know Zach Wilson's led a couple game-winning drives since he's been back, but Danny Jones, he's actually leading those drives. He's making big plays in big spots that set up the Giants in position to score, that gives Saquon a chance to get the ball into the end zone. And I'm not trying to make this whole entire podcast about Danny Jones right now, but let's face it. When you look at his numbers, he's been reliable and he hasn't screwed up. And I think that's all you really can ask for out of a quarterback at the end of the day is don't turn the ball over and put us in a position to win. And Danny Jones is one of the best quarterbacks this year at putting his team in a position to win. Because this year, 66.7 completion percentage, 90.8 quarterback rating right now. 90.8. It's different. It's a different Danny Jones that we're seeing. The interceptions are down. They're way down. The fumbles are down. And the sacks are still up. I mean, last season, in 11 games, Danny Jones got sacked 22 times. He's only played 7 games this year. He's been sacked 20. So I think that just shows you Danny Jones isn't a bad quarterback. He could be a really good quarterback, but we really can't define him with this terrible Giants offensive line. But I think he's showing you that, hey, look, I'm good. I don't turn the ball over. He doesn't turn the ball over. He manages the game. Like I said, he puts them in a position to win, and that's the most important thing a quarterback can do. Manage the game. Put your team in a position to win. And the Giants, what do they do at the end of football games? They win. They win football games. In the fourth quarter, the Giants are the best fourth quarter football team, period. The stats don't lie. They don't lie. They're outscoring their opponents more than any other team in the fourth quarter. The Jets are close, but that just goes to show you this, things are new in New York. And, I want to give credit to Saquon. I do. I love Saquon. Obviously, he deserves 75% of the credit, but you cannot ignore Daniel Jones' impact on this Giants team, because if the Giants didn't have a mobile quarterback right now, they would not be 6-1. If you take Daniel Jones off this football team and you put Jimmy Garoppolo in this lineup, as much as Jimmy G is a game manager too, is he avoiding the sacks that Danny Jones is avoiding? Because Danny Jones is mobile. Like I said, only one more mobile than him is Lamar Jackson, and I forgot to mention Jalen Hurts too. Probably those two, and then Daniel Jones. Giants aren't 6-1 without Daniel Jones, period. All right, but let's not just focus on Danny Jones, because the Giants, when you look at the Giants' defensive numbers and their schedule coming up, they're easily going to get to 10 wins this year. I think the biggest test for them, the Seahawks is going to be a walk in the park, hopefully. Obviously, the Giants don't take anybody lightly, which is another good reason why this team is so good. Brian Daboll is preparing them one game at a time. So that's why I'm confident that they'll beat the Seahawks more than if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they face the Carolina Panthers, you see what happens. They scored 3 points, because in Tom Brady's head and in probably Todd Bowles' head, they're probably planning ahead to the big games that they think that is more important than the Carolina game. But the Giants, every single game is important, and that's why they're 6-1, and that's why Brian Daboll is doing such a great job as a rookie head coach with this Giants football team. And, coming up this week, Week 8 in Seattle, right now they're first in rushing yards, just past Cleveland. And then 6th in points allowed. And then the biggest thing I think for them is the third down stops. This defense on third down, they do nothing but just get stops. And they're 6th in the league right now in getting stops on third down. And I've been preaching it almost every single recent podcast that I've had. The Giants, what makes them so good, besides Saquon and Danny Jones being one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the league, is it's the Giants defense being able to get stops on third down. It's the most important thing in football. Third down is the most important down in football. Every third down is important. You get a stop on defense, that's huge. You force a turnover. You convert on third down on offense, you extend the drive. Third downs, important, pretty obvious. I don't think I even have to explain that. And the Giants are elite at stopping teams on third down. And that's what is making this defense so good. Julian Love, nothing but spectacular. Kayvon Thibodeau, since he's been back, since he's started playing, I should say. He's just getting to the quarterback. The sacks will come. They will start to come more and more. But listen, he's looking good, and he's showing you why he was picked so high and why the Giants envied him so much going into that draft. Evan Neal going down with the injury obviously sucks. But you just this team is just so good. But yeah, you really can't deny what the Giants are doing. You can't deny that they're a good football team right now. Listen, they may not be the Eagles, but are we asking the Giants to be the Eagles? No one expected the Giants to be 6-1 right now. No one. So let's just take it one game at a time and see where the Giants end up. Because listen, they got Seattle. That should be a win. They got Detroit and Houston. Well, Houston, then Detroit. So legitimately going into Week 12 against Dallas, I hate to say this, Giants could be 9-1 going into Dallas. So we'll see. We'll see how the Giants finish the rest of the season. I'm excited. I think they're going to do good. I've said it. I've wrote about it with the G-Men HQ that the Giants, they could surprise a lot of people because their schedule is soft. But let's flip it because I don't got a lot of time here. Jets, they're defying the odds. I think that's the best way to put it. People were saying that the Jets would be 0-7 at this point, 1-6, 2-5 at best. Oh, the Jets' schedule is tough. Their easiest opponent is the Steelers and Mike Tomlin, and the Steelers are light years ahead of Rob Saleh and the Jets. Well, did you forget that the Jets, when the Jets drafted Sauce Garrett and Garrett Wilson and Jermaine Johnson in the first round, it was, oh my God, the Jets won the draft. The Jets won the draft. When Rob Saleh was signed as the head coach, it was, oh my God, the Jets finally got a head coach signing right. And now people are shocked that the Jets are 5-2. Sauce Gardner, arguably the best rookie cornerback going into this year. And he's showing you that not only is he the best rookie cornerback over Derek Stingley, but he's arguably a top 5 cornerback in this league already. Let me take a sip of my Starbucks. But yeah, dude, Sauce is already a top 5 cornerback in this league. And when you just defensively, this Jets team, it's like the old Jets. It's like when Rex Ryan, I was young. I was really young for that. When Mark Ryan was butt fumbling and going to AFC championships. This is what this team reminds me of. And Rob Saleh brings energy, and you give him guys that the guys that Joe Douglas has provided Rob Saleh on defense. Because last year he had no one. No one. He provided him a defense, a legitimate defense. Carl Lawson, obviously last year, missing the whole entire year. But he's back, and he's showing you that he's back. C.J. Mosley, he was hurt for a little bit. And, he took that year off with the COVID year. And he's finally getting we're finally getting C.J. worth what C.J. Mosley is. So we're seeing that. Quinnen Williams is playing like an absolute stud. Saleh has turned Quinnen Williams, who was the 3rd overall pick coming out of Alabama. Everybody had high praise for him. Supposed to be elite. Kind of struggled a little bit in his first couple seasons. But now, Rob Saleh, he completely turned him around into an all-pro defensive lineman. Quinnen Williams is a beast. A beast. And this Jets defense right now, 8th in total yards allowed, 10th in points allowed. And then you got to forget, you can't forget, this is after they gave up a lot of points too in the first couple weeks of the season. So this Jets defense, the past couple weeks, arguably a top three defense. Like legitimately, they have guys now. Quan Alexander, a veteran in this league, been here for a while. Rob Saleh, what does he love? Veterans. He loves veterans. And then you have the young firepower combined with the veterans who still want to win. With Rob Saleh, who's lighting a fire under their ass. And then Sauce, he's just providing a spark, not only on the field with his young energy and the youthfulness that he brings, but like the way he plays, he's elite. Like I just mentioned before, he's a top 5 cornerback already. Jordan Whitehead and then DJ Reed. This secondary is elite. Elite. The Jets have one of the top defenses in the league, period. Like, seriously, who has a better defense than the Jets? Or who can I say maybe has a better defense than the Jets right now? I'll go with the Broncos, obviously, who they just played. I would say the Broncos are still better than the Jets defense, but the fact that the Jets defense was able to play and outdo the Broncos defense, which is the best defense in the league, just shows you that this Jets defense is, even if it's not a top 3 defense, even if you don't agree with me that it's a top 3 defense, you have to admit that the Jets defense is a top 5 defense. They just are. They've been playing like it since Zach Wilson's been back, and a little bit before that too. They've just been nothing but elite. Week 1, they gave up 24 points in the loss to the Ravens. Week 2, they gave up 30 points in the win to the Browns. Since then, week 3, they gave up 27 points to the Bengals. But since then, they gave up 20 points to the Steelers, 17 points to the Dolphins, 10 points to the Packers, and 9 points to the Broncos. That's 4 games in a row under 20 points. So the Jets, all you have to do is score over 20 points with this defense, and you can win the game. That's how good this defense is. Zach Wilson, score 20 points. Get this offense into the end zone. It's going to be a little bit harder now because we just found out earlier this morning that Breece Hall tore his ACL. Well, we found out yesterday that he could have torn his ACL, but it's official. It's torn. He's done for the season. And it sucks because Breece Hall, he was looking like he was turning into one of the best running backs in the league. And he's so young, obviously a rookie, a second-round pick. You know, the Jets draft, last couple of drafts has really been good. It's really good, like really solid players. But there's been two players in my mind that have been elite in the past couple of years. You know, it's been Sauce, obviously, this year. Garrett Wilson, he's good, but he hasn't really shown this year that he can make an impact like Breece Hall or Sauce has. Breece is making an immediate impact to win it now. That's how good Breece is. So it sucks seeing him go because it's such a huge part of the Jets offense. You know, it opened up a lot. Obviously, having Zach Wilson not drop back as much is huge, but at the end of the day, he's a second overall pick. So Zach Wilson, you got to start contributing more on this offense. You got guys. You got Garrett Wilson. Elijah Moore is probably going to be playing again. You know, Denzel Mims ain't bad. You know, you got good tight ends. They just need to get involved more. I don't know why we're not using our tight ends, especially when we just signed CJ Uzomah. It makes no sense. Come on, Mike LaFleur, get on your game. But just Zach Wilson, at the end of the day, he needs to do more because we're winning. I love that we're winning. But 16 of 26 yesterday, 121 yards. Obviously, you know, I was talking about, and then even in the win against the Packers, you know, only 10 of 18. Doesn't even throw a touchdown, 110 yards. You know, Zach Wilson is playing like, it's kind of like backyard football for him at times, obviously, because, you know, he's running out of the pocket and avoiding sacks just like Daniel Jones is. But put the ball in your receiver's hand. Like, I find a hard reason to grasp. It's so hard to grasp this. Why aren't the Jets utilizing Zach Wilson more when he's the second overall pick? Like, we see other top quarterbacks that go that high in the draft. They get a shot to throw the ball. But Zach Wilson, it's like they're hiding him. Why? Is there something wrong with him in practice that we don't know about? Is he really not ready? And the Jets rushed him? Maybe he's not the guy. I don't know. But Zach Wilson needs to step it up. He needs to show up because, listen, we're winning. The defense, like I said, score more than 20 points, we win. But without Breece Hall, it's going to be a little bit harder. I love Michael Carter. I do, but he's not Breece Hall. He's not. But Michael Carter still ain't no slouch, though. He ain't. So I'll talk about that, too. Michael Carter. He ain't going to be bad for us. But at the same time, Zach Wilson needs to step up because we can't just expect Michael Carter to do what Breece Hall did. I expect Michael Carter to show up because he's still a very talented running back, and he was one of the bright spots of the Jets season last year. But at the end of the day, you know, the Jets drafted Zach Wilson number 2 overall for a reason, and that's to help this team win games. Now, with the defense that we have and the weapons that we've gave him, you gotta use Zach Wilson more. I don't know why he's not dropping back more. But listen, at the end of the day, you got to do it. You got to find out if he's the guy. And the only way to find out if he's the guy is to let him throw the ball. Let him throw the ball. No sideline passes and easy passes, easy checkdowns. No, get the ball down the field. Throw it in the middle of the field. Last year, he hit a bomb to Corey Davis. We've seen him throw bombs. Open up the playbook for Zach Wilson, and let's see what he can do with the talent that he has. Quick break. Hop into baseball.
You might just be stupid, but I know you ain't dumb. You point like I'm Cupid. I ran up the funds. You know that I'm ruthless. I'm just having fun. When I put my dick in the box, got a stomach and knots like I really just turned drunk. There ain't no beef on my block, but I butcher the shop and I pick it like Australian. Whipping 2 V's and they all swerve. Swiping a Visa in your Birkin. I keep a G like an H in the eye. So if you try testing me, don't ask me why. Told myself I'm never telling no lies. I'm going hard when I try. They probably want me to die. They fucking sick, gotta survive. Popping back out with the guys. Give me a beat and it's murder. I doubt you try taking it further. For my family, I gotta be earned. You might just be stupid.
Oh, yeah. The Yankees lost, man. Not only did they lose, they got swept. And I get it. The Mets, dude, they didn't even make it out of the first round. Mets didn't make it out of the first round. Well, you got swept. And at the end of the day, the Mets failed and the Yankees failed. Because at the end of the day, there's a circle. A big circle in baseball. There's one winner, and then there's a big circle of losers. And at the end of the day, the Mets and the Yankees, they're in the same spot. Just a big circle of losers. Now you got to hit the restart button. Oh, who's better? Who was better in 2022, the Mets or the Yankees? Who cares? Who cares? Who cares who's better? The Yankees have holes going into this offseason. It showed in this Houston Astros series. They need to fix it. The Mets have holes. It showed in the final stretch of the season. They need to fix it. Period. End of the day. Who cares who's better? Who cares? No one cares who's better. All right? All right. Let's get into it. I think the biggest storyline, I'm not going to break down the Yankees losing the series. I'm not going to break it down like I'm some baseball junkie wizard. No, I love baseball and I would love to break it down, but I want to break down the offseason because that's what's exciting. You know, the Yankees sucked. You know, they showed you they're a good team. You know, in the AL East, they're a great team against the Cleveland Guardians. They're a great team against the Houston Astros. Yeah, they ain't getting by them. You know, you gotta hope for next year, I guess, just like Mets fans do, right? All right, but anyways, here's my question about the Yankees. Josh Donaldson's here for 2 more years. You know, if Aaron Judge does leave, who do you go after? Because I think with the Mets, if deGrom leaves, at least we still have a foundation. You know, Judge is the foundation of the Yankees. He's the foundation. So if Judge leaves, the foundation of the Yankees is gone. But you're okay because you still have Garrett Cole, who proved he's got cojones in the postseason. You know, even though his last start was rough, you know, he still showed cojones in that game. And then the bullpen, you know, you can retool it. You know, if you bring back Brian Cashman, which I think will happen, I'm not sure. But if you bring back Brian Cashman, the bullpen should be okay because he knows how to build a bullpen. Now you got to look on the offensive side. Who do you go after in free agency for your lineup if Aaron Judge walks away? Well, first, obviously, I think the first order of business is you go all in on Judge. And if they don't, then they don't. If they lose out, the only team that the Yankees should lose out to on Aaron Judge is the San Francisco Giants. If the San Francisco Giants want a crazy overpay for Aaron Judge, then I guess let them do it, right? But there's still other guys out there that could help this team win and capture a World Series title and get past the Houston Astros. Because I'll admit, I love trolling the Yankees, but at the end of the day, they're still a win-now team that can get to the World Series even if they lose Aaron Judge, if they can retool. Let's see what their owner, Steinbrenner, allows for whoever their GM is in this offseason to go out there and get. The big-name guys, obviously, to start, Trey Turner and Aaron Judge. I think those are going to be the 2 most expensive guys on the market. And then outside of them, you have the tier 2. You know, Nolan Arenado is a free agent. You know, Josh Donaldson, I think if you take Josh Donaldson off this team and you put Nolan Arenado on this team, it's completely changed. Then I think this team, they would still be playing against the Houston Astros. Let's be real. So Donaldson is a complete failure. You know, maybe he can platoon next year. You'd be paying him over $20 million a year to platoon and be a DH. But at the end of the day, that's what's going to win you games if Donaldson's only platooning on the bench. So you got to platoon Donaldson, make him hit against lefties only because he's just at that point of his career where he's not an everyday hitter anymore. He's not. And he's not an everyday third baseman anymore. He's not. He's washed up. He's not the AL MVP anymore like he was with Toronto. He's just not. Go get Nolan Arenado, regardless of if you bring back Judge or not. Because I think just like I said, you put Nolan Arenado on this team over Josh Donaldson, this team's in the postseason. Nolan Arenado, regardless of if you bring back Judge or not, is a perfect fit for the Yankees. So I would love to see the Yankees go after Nolan Arenado. Even as a Mets fan. Go after him because that's what would make your team better. And pitching wise, I think there's one pitcher that would help the Yankees get past the Astros. Justin Verlander. Go get him. Here's why. Because one, the goal is basically to get past Houston because every year it seems like the Yankees, during the ALCS, every time they're in the postseason, besides last year when they got knocked out in the wild card, but every year, if they win the division, they're going to be in the ALCS. And who are they going to be seeing? The Houston freaking Astros. How do you get by them? Steal their guys. You take away Justin Verlander and add him to the Yankees. Well, one, you just added another ace behind a Nestor Cortez and, well, probably in front of Nestor Cortez and in front of Garrett Cole. But, you add another ace. That's 3 aces you have. That's a rotation that can get you to a World Series. Those 3 guys, Verlander, Cole, and Cortez, if that was your front 3, and then that's what I'm saying. I think that the Yankees, their biggest 3 moves this year in the offseason, Judge, Verlander, Nolan Arenado. It's expensive, but you're the Yankees. You spend money. That's what the Mets are trying to do. Spend money. That's what wins you games. Look at the Padres. They got big-name players. The Phillies, big-name players. They were both in the NLCS. Now the Phillies are in the World Series. Look at who they have. Look who they have on their team. Nick Castellanos, Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber. They went out and they spent money. And that's what got them to the World Series. Those guys, Bryce Harper literally carried them to the World Series. Not carried, but and then another guy, Zach Wheeler, another free agent who they acquired. You build your team in free agency. So go get Verlander, bring back Judge, go get Arenado, and then you get past Houston. Then you get past the Houston Astros, and you automatically have the best team in the American League. Because I have a hard time seeing if you replace Josh Donaldson with Nolan Arenado this year. I have a hard time seeing the Houston Astros beating that Yankees lineup. But I don't know. I don't know. The Yankees are in a weird spot, though. Their owner just bought a soccer team. He just bought that soccer team. I don't know if he's going to be wanting to spend big money, but he should want to spend big money because at the end of the day, you have Garrett Cole, you have Nestor Cortez. You have Garrett Cole, when you have a guy like that on your team, and you have Stanton too, you have Rizzo, those are pieces that can win you a championship. But now you just need that foundation. Unfortunately, Judge might leave because he's that foundation, but you can still acquire more foundations. There's still guys out there. So we'll see what they do. I mean, at the end of the day, Yankees are golfing with the Mets now. So, all right, I'm finishing it off with the Mets. The Mets, I'm going to talk about more on the Mets Way podcast tomorrow. But I think the biggest question for the Mets, if I'm talking about the Yankees' big name player leaving, I got to talk about the Mets. Jacob deGrom, if he goes, big whoop. We won 101 games, and he started how many games in the past 2 years? Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, at the end of the day, if deGrom wants that much money, however much money he's going to be asking for, and the Mets don't think it's the right price, I won't be upset with the Mets. I'll be upset. It'll hurt, but I'll get over it. Especially if they win, because at the end of the day, we still got Max Scherzer. We can bring back Taiwan. I'm not sure what his plan is. And then, you got David Peterson. And then from there, you got Steve Cohen. See what he can do with his money. But I think the biggest thing for the Mets when deGrom leaves, or if he leaves, is Mets fans have to realize that this Mets team won 101 games this season. They don't really need Jacob deGrom as much as people think. And I know it sounds crazy, but at the end of the day, 101 wins with Jacob deGrom starting 11 of those games. And they were 5-4, and he had a record of 5-4. So did he really contribute to 101 wins? I don't know. And last year, only 15 starts. And then the year before, only 12 starts. So, I mean, it's 3 seasons in a row. Granted, 2020, everybody had a shortened season. But still, the injuries started creeping up there. And for the past 3 seasons, Jacob deGrom has not been reliable to stay healthy. And that is a factor in a $50 million player. Because if you're going to give somebody $50 million, you want 200 innings. You can be the best pitcher in baseball, but if you're giving me 6 innings for $50 million, that ain't cutting it. It ain't. So if deGrom leaves the Mets, big whoop. Who cares? I'd love to see him back. I got his autograph back there. He's one of my favorite Mets of all time, and he will always be one of my favorite Mets of all time. But if he leaves, he leaves. But big offseason coming up for the Mets. Trey Turner, Aaron Judge, all the rumors spurring out. Justin Verlander rumors are now heating up. Any big name player is now going to be tied to the New York Mets just because we have the richest owner in basically all of sports in Steve Cohen. He's worth over $16 billion. Cohen is a madman. I think he's ready to have a $350 million payroll. He's expressed his willingness to go up there if it means we can set up a World Series run, And at the end of the day, I think the Phillies proved you just got to get there. You get to the postseason and you have a chance. You do. And I know the Braves are good and the Phillies are good, but, you're going to win a lot of games if you get the best players. I think Trey Turner is the best fit. I would love Aaron Judge. Don't get me wrong. I get all Mets fans by saying you want Judge because one, you steal him from the Yankees, so it'd be awesome, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, Judge struggles in the postseason. And I feel like Trey Turner's a better fit. He'd come a little bit cheaper, not too much cheaper, but you stick him at second base, you move McNeil to the outfield, you bring back Nimmo, and then your outfield is Nimmo, McNeil, and Marte. And then McNeil and Canna, they can split left field and DH. McNeil, I mean, let's be real. He's one of the best hitters in the game. He doesn't really need to play defense to contribute. So I love the fit of Trey Turner. I do. I know there's people who would say it's a bad fit, but Trey Turner, at the end of the day, he's one of the best players in baseball. And he's been arguably the best middle infielder in baseball since he's been in the league, offensively at least. 302 career batting average in 8 years. This year he hit 298. Last year he hit 338. Yeah, last year he led the league in batting, 328. So last year he won a batting title just like McNeil won a batting title this year. He also hit 21 home runs this year, and he also batted 298 this year. He had an OPS of 809. Last year, his OPS was 911. In 2020, his OPS was 982. In 2019, his OPS was 850. Trey Turner rakes. If you put Trey Turner on this Mets team this year, they would get past the Padres. And hey, the Padres got past the Dodgers, so you get past the... Trey Turner, I don't care what position he plays. There's some players that just, you make them fit. You make them fit. Trey Turner is that type of player. 809 OPS this year, 298 batting average. He had 21 home runs, 100 RBIs. He's better than Francisco Lindor. He would have had more RBIs if he was the shortstop of the New York Mets this year instead of Francisco Lindor, because guess what? He's a better hitter than Francisco Lindor. Francisco Lindor hit 270, and he's one of the most streakiest hitters in all of baseball. Trey Turner's consistent. He's also one of the fastest players in baseball. Every time he gets on base, he gets a single or a walk. It's basically a double. He's one of the fastest players in the league. This year, he had 27 stolen bases. 2021, last year, 32 stolen bases, led the league. He led the league in 2018 in stolen bases too, with 43 stolen bases, 46 stolen bases in 2017. This guy can run. This guy can hit. And I get it. Defensively, he He can struggle here and there, but guess what? He's still a beast defensively too, better than most. There's some players that you make fit on that team, on whatever team, and Trey Turner is that type of player. He's the second best player on the open market outside of Aaron Judge, maybe even better than Aaron Judge. So if the Mets were to go after Trey Turner, and I think they will go after Trey Turner, when I think they should go after Trey Turner, because simply he's the best player on the open market, and you have Max Scherzer. You don't sign Max Scherzer and bring him here to be the highest annual paid pitcher in all of baseball by giving him $40 million a year and then not tool around him to win a World Series. They have World Series aspirations. They do. You don't build a team overnight, obviously, but at the end of the day, you get to the postseason, you have a shot. How do you win? Look at the Phillies. They have stars. Look at all their stars. Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Rhys Hoskins, Aaron Nola, Zach Wheeler, David Robertson. They have stars, star-studded rosters. Houston Astros, same thing. A little bit more homegrown. But you don't need to follow the blueprint of a team to find success. You have to make your own. The Mets have the richest owner in baseball. He can afford to pay the luxury tax penalties that other owners can't. So if he wants to do a $350 million rotation because he has Max Scherzer, he has $40 million tied into Max Scherzer, and he wants to make sure that $40 million is worth it, then he's going to put other players around Max Scherzer that can help us win now. Regardless if deGrom comes back or not, he's still going to go after Trey Turner. He's still going to go after Aaron Judge. He's going to go after Nolan Arenado. He's going to go after Josh Bell. He's going to go after every single big name in free agency because money is not an issue with the New York Mets anymore. And that attracts players. Money. Attracted Max Scherzer. Attracted Starlin Marte. So, listen. Get ready for a big Mets offseason. Whether you like it or not, it's coming. The Mets are going to sign either Trey Turner probably or Aaron Judge or Nolan Arenado or Josh Bell or Justin Verlander. I don't know. But if you don't think the Mets are going to sign another superstar, then you're bugging. You're bugging. Cohen said 3 to 5 years. This is year 3. We're going into year 3. You brought in Max Scherzer. You brought in Starlin Marte. You want to let deGrom go to open up more flexibility on the payroll, possibly. I don't know if that rumor is true, but if it is, get ready for the Mets to spend. Yeah, that's it, though. Let's go Knicks tonight. I'll be talking more basketball, hopefully, by the end of this week on another episode. Signing off. Deuces.